Good morning. Welcome to SSUC. We're live from South Edmonton this morning, and thank you for your patience. After a few technical difficulties, we're back in the swing of things and ready to join you and be with you this morning. Wherever you're joining us from this morning, we welcome you. Welcome to this online gathering of Southminster Steinhauer United Church, where we're spiritual seekers united in community. Whether you're in Edmonton or Saskatoon, whether you're in the Okanagan, whether you're in Ontario or any parts of our beautiful world, we welcome you this morning as we build community online together. In the room this morning, not only do Nancy and I welcome you as your ministry team, but also our musicians, Deb and Pam, Dawn and Anne, and Catherine, but also in the booth this morning, Brett and Paige and Matthew as our technical team. Hello from us to you. Today, we're continuing our series on the wisdom of trees. And as we do that, we recognize that as we gather with each other this morning, it's been a difficult week. As citizens of the world, as people of compassion, it has been a challenging week, filled with violence, filled with unrest. And so we look to the trees this morning as our wise ones, that will teach us the benefit of seeing the world, seeing each other, seeing every creature and plant as unique and valuable. Let's right now focus ourselves on being completely present. This is difficult when we open our apps to the news of the day, when we open our newspapers of the morning, when we look at the world around us. But right now, I want to invite us, if you have a candle, to light it with us this morning. As I light this one, maybe you will light yours, and you will recognize that we are one, that we are together and we are linked. Whether we are apart or together, we are one. I invite you to make this time together a special one. Set apart your time, your environment from the rest of your day. A candle can help us do that, but so too can where you choose to join us this morning. Maybe it's a location that is special to you. Maybe it's with a particular view out a particular window. Wherever it is, set apart the next time, knowing that you're connected to us here and to every person who is connected to us digitally this morning. Being by yourselves doesn't mean that you're alone. We're together, and that's important. And so we light our candles this morning knowing our connection to each other and being grateful for wherever we are, the land and the space that we have to enjoy. As we have lit our candles and connected with each other, let's sing our way into this community, into this time with one another, to live more closely as we pray.
As trees reach up to the sunlight, as leaves unfurl in the spring, as roots dig deep into history, our lives seek wisdom to sing. This is a glimpse of the the hope of our song, to live more closely as we pray, connected and one our life long. A dream of people as kindred, a cause of justice and peace, a call to serve and help others, a voice of kindness increased. This is a glimpse of the journey. This is the hope of our song, to live more closely as we pray, connected and one our life long. A glimpse of holy in others, a sense of nature's strong power, an open spirit within us, a trust in facing each hour. This is a glimpse of the journey. This is the hope of our song, to live more closely as we pray, connected and one our life
Hi. Ever since we've started our series on trees, I've wanted to show you one of my favorites. Here it is. Not the biggest, the strongest, or the most beautiful, I guess. But I think it's the strangest one I know. Look at how knobbly it is. It has these wide growths and weird shapes. I'm no arborist or anyone who knows why this tree grew this way. But I know that when it's winter, it gives me a smile every time I pass it. And in the spring, I whisper, "Way to go, my friend," when I see it budding and leafing and thriving. Trees come in so many varieties. Skinny ones, round ones, green ones, red ones, ones that flower, ones that seem to stay the same forever. And they're all valuable. How can I say that my favorite funny-looking tree is any less valuable than one that looks perfect? They're each doing their work of being a tree. They're each a home to the mini ecosystem that lives with them. I love this weird tree, because it's being uniquely it. I wonder if you have a tree in your life like that. You gotta just have a smile, some joy for the fact that they exist, as weird, as strange, as lovable as they are. Okay, see you a little later.
Good morning. I'd like to share a wonderful story with you that Chris found. It's called We Are a Rainbow, and it's written by a woman named Nancy Marcia Grande Tabor. She has lived and taught in both the United States and in Mexico. And when I read her story, I imagine myself as a child who grew up in Mexico coming to live in this country. Here's her story. We are a rainbow. Somos un arco iris. We are moving to a new country. New places, new faces, so many new and different things. Where I come from, there's a rabbit in the moon. Here, there's a man in the moon. There, the ocean is nice and warm. Here, the ocean is nice and cool. There, the many leaves of the palm tree swayed next to my pink adobe house. Here, the oak branches wave next to my blue wooden house. There, we give handshakes, hugs, and kisses to everyone. Here, handshakes are for new people, and hugs and kisses are for very special ones. There, I would eat tortillas for breakfast. Here, people have them for dinner. To you, I may seem different. But to me, you seem different too. I try hard to understand what you say. You try to understand me too. I say, sonríe, you say, smile. When we do not understand each other, we feel bad. We fight, we hurt, we cry, we separate, we stop trying to find a new way to be together. Apart, alone, please stop and think. Are we as different as we think? I say sol. You say sun. But no matter how we say it, it's the same one. We all like to run and play. We all like to dance and sing. We are really so much the same. And it is much more fun to be together, to share, to care, to smile, and to laugh. Our tears and our smiles are like the rain and the sun. They help our friendships grow. And friendships are like rainbows. They shine for everyone.
There is an ornamental fruit tree in our front yard with which we have a love-hate relationship. But from this tree we get wisdom, so I will share a bit about our tree. We love the incredible beauty and sweet scent the late May blossoms bring as we enter and leave our front door. But we hate the mess of spent brown blooms sticking to everything, from our concrete to our flower pots to our outdoor furniture. The wisdom of our tree shows us how to appreciate the beauty of the short time the blossoms are with us, as well as the message that we must savor all the moments in our lives. We love the thick canopy of leaves that provide hours of shade in our living room over the summer months. But we hate the branches that reach to the sky and thus interfere with the eaves and the trim. In this, our tree reminds us to appreciate growth and spread, but also to learn how to make wise decisions when necessary to curb growth and expansion. We love the way our tree provides branches for birdhouses and safe sheltered spots for nesting robins, a home for the plump chickadees which seem ever joy-filled, and the occasional woodpecker, and how it attracts the bumblebees to the rich scent of the spring blooms. But we hate the neighborhood manic squirrel who yearly insists on trying to hide nuts in a birdhouse and thus chews and damages the little structure. Our tree asks us to understand and recognize and applaud determination, despite overwhelming odds. We love the changing colors of our beautiful tree in the fall, but we hate the carpet of inedible, even by the birds, hard little berries our tree and those beautiful blooms produce. This lesson teaches us that there will always be ups and downs, pluses and minuses, joys and sorrows, laughter and sadness, as our seasons turn. We love that we were blessed when our home was built, that someone chose that tree for our yard, and thus provided us with the joy of the spring blossoms, the summer shade, and the fall-colored leaves. But we hate the cleaning up of the berries before they spoil, but mostly the barrenness of the tree as the low winter sun forces us to draw the blind on the living room. And now, yet another lesson from our tree is that sometimes we need to shelter, to recharge, to rest, and reflect. We are grateful for our tree and the wisdom it shares with us, season after season.
This is a poem by Howard Nemerov, simply entitled Trees. Howard Nemerov was born in the early part of the 20th century to Russian Jewish parents in New York City. He was a two-time United States Poet Laureate and won numerous awards for his novels as well as his poetry. His poem, Trees. To be a giant and keep quiet about it, to stay in one's own place, to stand for the constant process of change, and always to seem the same, to be steady as a rock and always trembling, having the hard appearance of death with the soft, fluent nature of growth, one's being deceptively armored, one's becoming deceptively vulnerable, to be so tough and take the light so well, freely providing forbidden knowledge of so many things about heaven and earth, for which we should otherwise have no word. Poems or people are rarely so lovely. And even when they have great qualities, they tend to tell you, rather than exemplify, what they believe themselves to be about. While from the moving silence of the trees, whether in storm or calm, in leaf or naked, night and day, we draw conclusions of our own. Sustaining and unnoticed as our breath, and perilous also. Though there has never been a critical tree about the nature of things. In the words of this poet, may we find wisdom for our living.
I've been wondering to myself this week, with that unique and strange tree that I was visiting, what does it have to teach us about our humanity? What does every tree in its uniqueness and value have to teach us about our humanity? When we study what Jesus taught and did, we see that he was, in the words of Bible scholar Marcus Borg, a radical inclusive. We use those words around here a lot in our community. In fact, that's one of our goals and our hopes at every turn, that we can be radically inclusive as a community and as a people. The teachings that have been passed down from that time repeatedly emphasize loving one another, and Jesus exemplified that by honoring and caring about the people that he encountered from all backgrounds. Now, I don't think any of this would matter much if that's all there was to it, if these were stories of someone who was kind to everyone. Kindness and caring, there's loads of examples of that. The difference was he was also a passionate advocate for change. He was a reformer, and he made it a point to reach out to the outcasts, the people no one else would. At that time, those were the women, the poor, the oppressed, the sick, the children, the lepers, the ones doing thankless and terrible jobs. Jesus made it clear that the kind of world we work to create needs to be a world possible for everyone, not just a select few. That the world we work to create must be for everyone. Time after time in the stories that we have, he purposely rebelled against prejudice and discrimination. In a world where sharp social boundaries were enforced harshly, where those binaries were so strong between pure and impure, male and female, whole and not whole, rich and poor, Jew and Gentile. Borg again says, Jesus vehemently opposed exclusionary practices and deliberately replaced those binaries, replacing the core value of purity with the core value of compassion. But here's the thing. Jesus didn't just say it and teach it. Jesus ate with the outcasts. Anyone who was on the outside looking in, he hung out with them. The example to us is what? It's to be a champion of the oppressed. It's to be the living example of unconditional love. Even, perhaps most especially, when that is difficult and when that puts us in harm's way. Although discrimination in his day may have centered around gender and health and social status and religious practice, we could just as easily imagine discrimination and his response to discrimination based on nationality, ethnicity, race, sexual orientation, or identity. If we're serious about the lessons of uniqueness and value, then instances of hatred and violence can't be tolerated. And we have to find a way to respond. There can be no George Floyds in this world that we wish to create. There can be no Colton Bushies. There can be no Matthew Shepherds, ever. And to be true to that value, we can't just say it. Like so many in North America, even spreading to Europe, I hear this morning, there are those protesting. And those protests are to stand and confront and rally and demand a different way. A different way. Like the protesters last night, who joined arm in arm and would not let looting happen. That they were going to protest, but they were going to do it a certain way. They were not going to turn to violence and theft. We have to demand that frustration with life will not turn to us versus them. We have to demand and find alternatives that allow fear not to be scapegoated into hatred and violence. We have to demand and find new ways that power not become abuse of power. So what do those of us at home in Edmonton, in Western Canada, wherever we are, what do we do? For each of us, we can't be afraid to confront our culture's racism and privilege. And we have to start where we are. We're going to have to start listening more and talking less. We're going to have to do the work of educating ourselves and invite learning about our own country, our own culture, our own family, our own part in a sick and unhealthy system. And every day, perhaps this is maybe even the most important thing, we have to feel the hurt and the violence and the pain as if it's our own. Because it is our own. We probably all need a moment to let it out. The poet said, as Nancy read from those wise words, to be like the trees, to exemplify and not describe what we're about. With the soft, fluent nature of growth, let's be deceptively armored. Let's be giants, standing for the constant presence of what is right. Life, justice, meaning, respect, dignity, all these values that we hold so dear and value so highly, all these things that make us the community that we are, all these things that make us the people that we are, these are for everyone. Let's just say that over and over again. That's who we must be. And we'll remember the teacher and the teaching well if we live these values not just for us, but for every single one, regardless of color, race, creed, regardless of anything. There it is then, our lesson from the trees. Let's move on, strong in our value, and share it with as many as we can.
Just where I belong, with kindred spirits we are strong. I'm not alone, we are together. We share one heart, love is our song.
Welcome to my backyard. I'm under a birch tree, surrounded by the catkins that fall all over the grass every spring. You know, these things that blow off the tree and break apart and leave their dusty mess all over the deck and all over the furniture. I bet some of you probably have had trees that drop berries every year. They're leaving their red, juicy stain everywhere. Or how about poplar trees that seem to blow their fluff right up our noses every year? It's funny, isn't it? We get annoyed by these things. These are all just trees being trees. And deeper than this, we ask the question, why do plants and trees and creatures and animals and people, being who they're born to be, annoy us so much? Doesn't difference frighten us? Doesn't privilege blind us? Doesn't our human-centric attitude drive our actions? So much so that even the existence of one can become an affront to another. This is a birch tree being a birch. Can I love it purely for that? Our fellow human beings being the persons that they were born to be, colorful, beautiful, unique, different. Can we love them purely for that? That is our task, it seems to me. That's the seed we must plant and produce. That's the flower we must show to the world and let blow on the wind. It's the only antidote to those who will act on their fear and on their privilege. So this is our role. There are no qualifiers to the teaching to love one another. To live with an open and inclusive heart is to know the meaning of heaven on earth and to keep creating it day after day. It's to know that truly we are all unique. We are all valuable. We are all one. May we live and work to make it so. Goodbye from the birch tree.
We are the wonder of our true selves. We are the free world to love out loud. We are the prism, we are the bow. We are the friends that stand, that march so proud. We are the wonder of our true selves. We are the freedom to love out loud. We are the prism, we are the bow. We are the friends that stand, that march so proud.
We want to take a moment to honor two young people who have been teaching our children that we are stronger together, who have been instilling and strengthening those values that our families are teaching at home. As our children have gathered for their preschool program and also for Kids Spirit, we want to express our gratitude to Ariane for the work that she has done with our Kids Spirit program throughout the year and has adapted to an online program that we've been able to offer during this time of pandemic. And also to Daisy New, who's been working with our youngest children in our preschool program this year. You see each of them on your screen doing something they love to do. And they have loved their opportunities to engage with our children this year. We're also very grateful that they are willing to continue their work in these summer months so that we can continue to offer programming not just to adults but also to the youngest members of our community. So we celebrate and express our gratitude to Ariane and Daisy for their work over this program year and look forward to their contributions to us again over the summer.
And I want to share just a little bit of gratitude for those of you who continue to support the work of SSUC in all the ways that you've donated to us over the past months and the ways you continue to donate. An invitation to visit our website to help us with all that we do and the commitments we have across the globe and within our city of Edmonton. Donating online or with a drop-off at the church or through snail mail or signing up for automatic withdrawal. I want to spend one moment just highlighting one way that you can help us in this time. All of our fundraisers for the year are likely not going to happen. And so the one fundraiser that we've got left is our grocery card program. Many of you have supported that in the past. And I want to offer an invitation just to consider supporting that grocery card program if you've never done it before, or if you haven't done it since we've been apart and not together physically on a Sunday morning. As our one remaining fundraiser this year, it's a way we can support SSUC without even spending an extra dollar. Any of the dollars that we spend at the major grocery stores, if we buy those grocery cards through SSUC, a portion of that will come back to us. And so with kind of no expenditure, you are supporting us in a way that helps us to continue and make up for some losses that we've seen during these months. We can arrange to have those cards for pickup, or there's some in our community that are willing to do a contactless delivery for you at your home. So please consider that, and if you would like to participate with a little bit of your grocery budget or a lot of your grocery budget, please contact the church office, and we'll be able to accommodate you.
At the close of our gatherings, we always change the light. This act is not about putting out the light. This is about changing the light. It requires our breath to change the light into a different form. We heard those 3 terrible words this week. I cannot breathe. We change this light to give one another breath, to stand and speak in solidarity with love, with inclusion, with affirmation, with respect, celebrating our uniqueness and the gift of our difference and the truth of our sameness. So we change this light as an act of giving one another breath, to be stronger together in all of those things that seek to take breath away: poverty, disease, grief, discrimination, prejudice, racism, sexism, heterosexism, all of the diseases of ism. We give one another breath. And as we extinguish our candles here and at home, we are not alone. We are together in our commitment to live in more loving ways, to build the world for which we always pray. May it be on earth as it is in heaven. Be well, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.